If the mapping is, again, on the other end of the spectrum, if it's too direct, it could get boring quite quickly, both for the performer as for the person watching it. I have a couple of techniques, a bit more than I was mentioning earlier, like time dependency. Like a mapping can be time dependent. This can either be because it's like you use like an adaptive thing, like I don't know, you could have, well, maybe based on the amount of energy you've been putting in over time into the system, it changes behavior. There's also people who work with having a mix of like a compositional structure and mapping. So there's a fixed timeline which determines how things are mapped throughout the composition. Direct or indirect, that's kind of a similar thing, like is something directly affecting stuff, or is it like affecting something on a more indirect level, like a section level, or like moving something to a different state. There's techniques from statistics and time series manipulation, so rather than looking at an absolute value, you look at the variation of a value, or like higher order statistics. Event classification, looking at properties of data streams, you detect certain events happening in there. Data smoothing, lagging, if stuff like jumps around, you might actually just want to slow it down a little bit so it affects things slowly. Fusion of data, like merging multiple data streams into one stream. Conditional and maybe fuzzy logic to determine these things. Using neural networks, learning agents that look at the data streams and generate outputs. Dynamic scaling is something I've been using. Especially if you have a sensor, sort of when it gets into a more quiet state, like you have it become very sensitive to these changes. If you then like switch to like very big gestures again, then it becomes less sensitive. But yeah, there's quite a long list if you start listing them all. And yeah, that really should be done. Okay.
That was it. Right.
The end.
You have an end slide?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for this.
Right. Short applause.
So it's still a question of
Let's
mapping.
nothing.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening.
So sets the stage.
Yeah, it's still a question, I think. There's no answer to it.
I was wondering how this is implemented, because I know that it's being implemented in the gaming industry, starting to like new controllers and gestures and the Kinect, emotes and stuff like that. I'm really curious how, if there's going to be like new controllers that are gesture based.
Yeah, that's what's interesting was we've always seen these improvements in hardware, particularly Nintendo has always been pushing their hardware because that's also one of their main selling points. And they create their software to drive sales with their hardware. So they make sure you have to buy as many peripherals as possible because that's it's an income for them. And then when the Wii came out, there was they did that to differentiate themselves from the other developers that were making or that had more money and were able to provide more power. So tried to differentiate themselves that way. They saw Kinect because those other developers wanted to follow their footsteps because they saw, hey, there's a market there. The disappointing thing is that you never really see them do anything interesting with those new techniques. It's always been these carnival kind of experiences. Yeah, and well, no one's really seen. You've never really seen it applied in games in a really good way. I think one of the best examples actually is Johann Sebastian Joust. Anyone has ever heard of that? It's by a Danish video game collective. When they just used the PlayStation Move controller, so it's similar to the Beam. And then they play sound in the background, and based on the speed of the sound, you have to, the controller needs to move at a certain speed. And if it moves too quickly, then you're out of the game, and then you can't play a game. Not pump. I was thinking of musical chairs. It's not really similar, but you just walk. Last man standing.
Pass it.
Yeah, last man standing. But so they don't even use the consoles themselves or anything, but they just use that's an interesting use of it. It's always kind of kept at experiments, in my opinion, not something that's mainstream interesting.
I wanted to add on the issue of games. Actually, I'm designing this period in the spring. I'm going to make an instrument for someone. And then I had this idea about if it's going to be too easy or too difficult, and Mariah sent me last night her notes. So they were quite helpful in the sense that you don't want it to intimidate people, but you don't want to achieve mastery too early because otherwise it becomes boring. And then one thing that they implement in games is the idea of scaffolding. So you go to a level, you raise and you become better, you learn how to fight the masters, and then there's, for a while, you stay into this level and you exercise your skills, but it's not getting harder and harder, and then you have the next level, so you climb a little bit and you stay like this. And I think, it might be something that I will use, that as the person gets better at the instrument, with the instrument, then it will become harder, or new features are going to be activated to keep it interesting.
This in gaming though is extremely well developed. You have a really nice learning curve in games today. It's like you start with not too easy but not hard at all. It's like I always feel that the learning curve of a game, today at least with new games, is like amazing. It's so natural.
But what I find so fascinating is in an instrument like a guitar, that sort of learning curve is built into there's nothing changing of the guitar between a novice player and a string genius who's doing all sorts of things. Like the instrument is just this one thing that stays the same.
You're not unlocking it.
No, you're not unlocking any. It's not like, yay, I get two strings
your
now.
body gets used to the
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when somebody who goes to a
really
guitar, he doesn't know, it's like his hand doesn't really understand how to do those shapes. I've seen like, people that don't know how to play guitar, when they start, it's like until then your hand kind of gets used to shapes, to put 3 fingers at this kind of distance and change to this kind of thing.
Yeah, but the same is true for games and controllers. But games, they need to build in these artificial layers of now it's easy, and now it's getting harder, and now it gets harder. Well, with a guitar,
it doesn't change.
It doesn't change.
But
you play something easier first.
Yeah. You get different note material.
That's interesting. Because obviously you have the game designed by the developer themselves. But if you go look online for people that take the games further, then they actually take them way further than the developer had ever imagined. So that same kind of emergent play is within them. You're still building something that people are going to be messing around with.
And get better at. The more they play.
But you basically create this possibility space. Like you have you can do these things and the system reacts in this way. Then you sort of give it away and it's like, okay, well, you fill in the gaps and you play with that. And then out of that emerges these people that develop these extraordinary skills to create wonderful things with it.
Yeah.
While it's not inherently in the system, but it's just the way the system is being interpreted by the player. I think that's amazing.
There's one installation that a collective in Austria was made, collective Time's Up. They made this installation where they were just using like a heart rate sensor and was kind of like in a kind of globe dome thing with projection. And basically you had to get further in the game, you had to run. But what they did was, as your heart rate increased, like the end goal would get further.
So you actually had to keep your heart rate down. So in order to finish, you had to keep your heart rate low and run fast.
Yes.
So basically, wow.
So you have to train a lot.
So you have to
they actually
run
got
while
scared of
meditating.
the one person who actually made
The
it
what?
to the finish.
The what? There was one person that made it.
There was this game jam a couple of months ago, which was called the Mother Day Jam. We were supposed to go out of the box with that jam. It's inspired by a game designer that always promises all these amazing things and then never really delivers on them.
They never provide.
And a game we tried to build, but we weren't able to do it in that time frame, was something using the Kinect, but in which you are a scarecrow, and you're in a world with one word. It was based on a tweet that you were able to pick out of one of the tweets, which one you were going to do. And we picked that one. There was this one bird in the world, and we came up with this idea that you were supposed to stand like this, like a scarecrow, and the bird would slowly get closer to you. But well, it's the only thing in the world there, so you'd like it to be near you, because it's but eventually your arms will get tired, and then you'll start moving, and if you start moving, then you'll scare away the bird. So what I found interesting with that was that you're using the Kinect precisely for what it wasn't intended for.
So
you stay still as much as possible. I still really like the concept.
That's like psychological torture. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
But it's that kind of controversial usage of it that I don't see that much yet.
But it's super interesting. It's like
It's like saying, we're making football, it's round, and then making it go through all these square holes. It doesn't fit, but that's the point.
But it's also like the Kinect, for example, the games that are being played with the Kinect are still almost the same as the games which were before the Kinect.
Yeah.
And that's the whole problem.
Yeah.
So it's not like those games are tailored for the Kinect, it's just like, oh, we have the Kinect and there's a new shooter, so we have to make this work with the shooter.
Yeah.
But that's like the sort of process that always happens with new technology, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the first cars really looked like carriages.
Yeah.
And it took them a while to understand that it's a different thing and that you can shape it differently, and then the car
really low and red and
it's like first of all, it's a carriage without horses.
Actually, one of the things that I suggested now in my thesis when I was doing economics, and it was related to technology and technology-based art. And this is one of the ideas that artists really, it's a bit of an instrumental argument that art is a tool. But they say, no money to art because it doesn't offer things. But one of the things that art offers is new ways to use technologies, new concepts of what technology is for. And it's something that's not very well understood by the art world.
Yeah, but it's also not really well documented. So we come up with then it gets lost again.
Well, it's
I think
as you
the
say,
other way around,
the usage of
technology is a tool. not art as a tool.
No, but
Or art.
it's
In a
the use of art.
What?
In an economic sense, art.
In an economic sense.
Mm.
Yeah, okay.
No, but you could say like the artist uses tools, or tools use artists to
To develop.
Today, technology uses artists to develop itself.
Yeah, that's a good thing of thinking. Who is up for some action?
Some action.
Yeah, let's go.
It's warm up.
This kind of action.
So this is the hands-on part.
What this is it?
This is the hands-on part.
Hands-on.
Think to it else.
No, beginnen moment.
Oh, the cigarette.
Yeah, we could do
Maybe a break before we start.
a 5 minutes.
5-minute break.
5 minute break.
Oh, you have to stop and just once
5 minute break and then we start.
Oh, okay.
He's dying for a cigarette.
And I can't even change
into a Spanish.
Yeah. Like a day,
Yeah.
all happens.
Now we're gonna
Back in 5.
And I'm the only one that's smoking here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really?
Good.
Shit.
I'm coming.
Yay.
Ik moet steeds even kijken, want de tijd moet weer pauze zetten.
Huh?
Pauze of zo?
Ja,
Ik heb gewoon uitgestaan.